Welcome. So I'm Marie Hugley, a practitioner of transformative leadership, writer, creator, and proud single mother to a 13-year-old girl. So imagine you are looking up to the top of a mountain you know you have to climb. At the top, you see a field of the most coveted flowers blossoming. You know that this is the place that you want to be, but you also know that the journey will be through rugged and steep terrain. So my project is called A Steep Bloom, and it's about community and empowering single working mothers to thrive through shared narrative and real life inspiration. Like it or not, the Center for American Progress states that there are approximately 7.3 million of us single mothers in the US. Well, that was as of 2023. I have a feeling it may have grown just a bit. I thought, how cool would it be to interview women who are really immersed in the journey, no matter how temporary or permanent, in the advocacy and in the game of life, in survival and manifesting and creating abundance. My intent is to interview women who are doing amazing things and have really beat the odds and have been able to also share their success and can share their perspective on life and others with others. So a lot of things are happening to us, for us, by us, and against us too. Um, it flies by, and we barely have time to reflect on it. So, with that, I'd like to welcome Quenesha Caballero. I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. And then just wondering if you would share a little bit more about your backstory and where you are today.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Marie. I'm very excited to be indulging with you in this amazing journey. I am a 41-year-old now, a single mother of four children. I became a mother very early in life. I was 15 when I had my first son, and he is now 26. So I have my son, that's the oldest. I have a 21-year-old who's still at home, a 15-year-old, and now my baby girl who is 7. And the journey to ensure that my children had security, stability, and I also was able to provide for them while being fulfilled in my professional journey has been extensive. It has been some high highs and some low lows, but we have always stayed afloat and just very grateful to the fact that I'm very faith based that that's been possible. Presently, I am working for UCLA. I joined UCLA in 2020, and I've had two promotions since joining the team within the quality field of anesthesiology, but I've wanted to work in healthcare all of my life. Initially, I thought I would be more hands-on with clinical work. I wanted to be a registered nurse at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles or East with hematology oncology patients. No one can tell me anything otherwise. Um,
This is specific. I
very,
love
very
that.
specific,
I love
very
it.
specific.
Yeah.
And then life's journey, becoming a mother to children who were immunocompromised, um, and then just seeing how emotional I would get. I had empathy for those around us, and it helped me to see that maybe I would be best suited in the background, but still helping. And that's when I found my niche with quality and safety. So finding ways to improve processes, systemic issues. Let's get to the root, let's fix them, and let's ensure that the patients and families are getting the best quality of care. So that is what I do now. And I'm finding the ways to best meet my needs as a mother, as a professional, and as a Bruin to ensure that we're all on the same page and we're moving and thriving.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I didn't know that you had two children that were already in their 20s. So,
Yeah.
um, and you look very young. Well, you are very
Thank
young.
you.
So that explains it.
Yeah.
So is there a moment where you feel that momentum sped up, where you felt that momentum sped up and good things started happening? Like, was there a certain moment that you can think of, or a few moments that you can think of?
Oh, I would definitely say once I allowed myself to truly advocate for myself, that's initially I became an administrative support to um, high level executives. And it was very transactional. The roles were very much so, can you do this? Can you do that? Schedule this, schedule that. And I didn't really have a voice. I just was very much so content at that time because I was paying the bills, with just meeting the needs of the leaders I supported. And I would say once I noted some things because I had a lens that some may not have, being able to experience healthcare on the receiving end and then now working in that field, I was able to see some things and I had leadership that was open to hearing it. So like one day I just said, I think there may be an area of improvement here. Here is my suggestion. And they heard me. And once that ball got rolling, I realized the power in my voice and that it wasn't, I could be a part of the team, and I could have a seat at the table, not just someone who would be sought after to complete tasks. And that's when the traction started to roll. I was able to, without a degree at the time, I was able to excel professionally because there was something I brought to the table that maybe not everyone was able to. So it was something unique about me that they saw. And it was really me finding the voice in myself that helped me to catapult in that way. And that's when opportunity started to unfold for me.
That is such a big deal. The fact that you mentioned to advocate for yourself again. And I tell my 13-year-old that all the time. I'm like, if you don't advocate for yourself, I mean, and I just feel like that is a turning point for a lot of people, like a lot of women, where you decide like, I'm not going to just say yes all the time, like blindly without, like, I'm going to have a conversation about it and voice my opinion about it in a constructive way.
Mhm.
And sometimes, I noticed that when I started doing that a little bit more, there were people's eyes kind of got a little big and they're like, "Oh, tell me more." It's kind of
Mhm.
interesting how once you decide to do that, things change, right?
100%. I could not agree with you more. And I try to do the same with my daughters as well. My boys are a little bit more so direct and they say how they feel. The girls were a little bit more timid. So I
Mm.
really try to reinforce that with them also. So kudos to
Mhm.
you.
Thanks. No, that's great. All right. So then the next question I have is so I want to contemplate what it means to curate circles of support for ourselves. Personally, I think that there's a lot of untapped community waiting for us once we get strategic about the type of people we want in our lives or the type of people we want influencing our lives. So, how does this idea of curating circles of support play out in your life?
I would definitely say it has been instrumental from very early on in life, even from me being a mom in 10th grade. My grandmother, rest her soul, she was the person that provided the space for me to return to standard school. I was like, oh my gosh, my life is over. I have all my friends who are doing all these things, and now I'm a mom with this teeny baby, and I don't know what the plan is for me. I'm like, my life is over. And my grandmother said, your situation, your circumstances does not define you. You'll go back to school. I'll watch him for you. We'll figure it out. And that was when I really realized the value at a tender age of 15 with a baby, how important that core foundation is. And I knew my family would be there regardless of any of my shortcomings or any missteps in my life. He's a blessing now, but at the time I couldn't see past what have I done to my life.
Right.
And I think that built extensions of family. So now I have friends that I've been friends with since elementary, middle school. They are now my sisters and they are my village. So even when I don't see them on a regular basis, we're texting, how are you doing? Just checking in. My kid's doing this. Be there. I'm losing my mind. Send a scripture. I think that's pertinent.
So good.
Yeah, it's like it can turn the day around and just even giving you a pause when everything around you may seem like you're in the middle of the eye of the storm. Just having those key, true, genuine people, that's something that I think I wasn't necessarily looking for in my circle and my friends. It's just, oh, happy to have just good energy, but people who are genuine is not
Mm,
something I see as frequently anymore. So when you have that, you hold on to that and you
yeah.
start to um, emulate that as well. So I would say my family, my extension of family, that from friends who are now family to me. I even have some colleagues who have become, near and dear to my heart. And when there's things that my friends and family can't relate to, the colleagues who are now good friends of mine can empathize and we can kind of bounce ideas off of one another and we grow together. So a circle, absolutely necessary. And
Yeah.
the content of the circle, the substance in there is essential as well.
Yeah, and that circle, so you have your immediate family, like right, so
Hmm.
you and your kids, and you have your immediate family, and then you have this other ring that's like maybe your work family or your, work, well, and family, right? And there's like if you're involved in other institutional things, whether it's, the gym, church, just
Hmm.
extracurriculars, and you bring other people in, so then you have people that aren't necessarily like your best friends, but you have like this kind of reciprocal relationship where you can kind of count on each other and you respect each other. And so even that I feel like counts as like part of the can count as like part of your village that you create. So yeah, so that's great. I'm so glad that you have that. Yeah. And so then how have you manifested things in your life? Like how do you stay hopeful and resilient? And I guess that's a two-part question, but just curious.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, the path I've had, being a 27-year-old widow, being a young mom, having a couple of times in my life where my life was almost no longer a thing. It just
Mm,
you've been through all of these things. Like
yeah.
what? Like nothing formed against me has prospered, and I don't think that the higher power will let that happen now. So I'm big on
Mhm.
that, and I'm also big on the fact that I believe our stories are written. And so we're just living out a beautiful story, and it's like a romance, and it's a horror film, and it's like a comedy, and we're
Mhm.
just living it out day by day. So what I do is I truly believe in the spoken word. My grandmother would always say, you put it out there in the universe. So whether you think about what you're saying, so like if you want something good, you want it, claim it, put it out there in the universe. It's yours. So oftentimes, I had positions that I wanted, and I said, I claim it now. If it's what you intend for me, I claim that it's mine in your name. And I put it out there. So I'm just
Mm.
very big on the spoken word and
That's
then
so
letting
powerful.
it's
Wow.
very powerful. You put
Yeah.
it out there and let it
Mhm.
be and see what the universe um allows you to have. So yes, I would say just the spoken word. That's how I manifest the most is through articulating out loud what I would like to have. And even sometimes I'll write in my journals and so I like double down, like I really want this. So let
Yeah.
me write it down too.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like when I write it down, like in a structured way, but also I like speaking it into fruition, but
Mhm.
also writing it down. So yeah, I love that. Well, the next question was like, what drives your ambition? So a little different, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say honestly, what drives me, and this is again very personal, it's just that I think about the fact that my children never had their dads. So like my oldest son, his dad's been in prison since he was one. And
Wow.
that in itself, being a young mom, doing it alone was hard. Then
Mhm.
I met my late husband and we had our two children together. And I just think, I want to make sure when I leave this earth, I leave them with some grounding, with some stability of the core morals that they should have. And then I also want to leave them with something that they can turn into money and money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So honestly, I mean, I try to be a little bit realistic, but I also
Mhm.
think about the core things that my parents instilled in me. And because of my children experiencing so much loss early in life, I did overcompensate with like tangibles. So I'm like, here, take them there, take them here, take this. I just felt so terrible that my kids had so much loss. So I gave them a lot of things and they became a little bit entitled. So,
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
and so now I'm at a space where I want them to know you work hard and good things can come from that. And that doesn't guarantee that either, though. So try to give them like
Mm,
real life expectations. So with that being said, I think that drives me is wanting more for them
yeah.
and knowing that like it's on me to make it happen like that. Like, I don't
That's
know what
it.
other driving force, like literally it pushes me when I'm like
Yeah.
it's dragging me oftentimes to do what they need to thrive in and be great and be a better version of themselves.
Mm. Yeah, I think a lot about legacy. I think,
Mm.
it's not it can be a lot of different things, right? And but what you leave, what of value that you leave on the earth and you leave to the next generation, to your kids. And I think that when we bring legacy into the conversation and into our thoughts in terms of ambition, it really changes the game, you know? And then I also what you were saying about like kind of doing more because you feel like you're kind of compensating for lack, right? And
Mhm.
I think a lot of single moms do that. At least the good ones, right?
Yeah.
So, where you feel like you have to, like, okay, this is my responsibility. These are my children. I brought them into the world. Like, so I'm going to give them everything I can possibly give them. And so I completely understand that too. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I would say that in terms of like the driving factor of ambition, it is the same for me. It's pretty much the same for me. Um, Let's see. So what are a few non-negotiables when it comes to thriving as a single mom? So like, is it character traits, most important structures to put in place, lifestyle, home requirements, etc.?
I would say I've not gotten there yet, but I do
Sure.
think something very, very big from like right now, I presently live and I've but most of my life lived in South Central Los Angeles, which I
Mhm.
love Los Angeles. I love Central Los Angeles. I particularly reside in an area that's not the most ideal, and I do struggle with the fact that I have not been able to change that circumstance. I'm like, I'm paying so much, and I'm like, I'm not in the greatest area. So when I look for the areas I preference, they're just not on the table for me at this time.
Yeah.
So I would say something that is a non-negotiable that I have not been able to necessarily fully work my way through is the environment in which my children and I live.
Mhm.
However, I do go above and beyond to get them to areas where there's better schooling because that's important. So, although I live where I live, they don't go to school in the areas we reside in. I do find concern for my sons because they are young Black men in an
Mhm.
area where there's high crime. And although they're homebodies, I'm like, the moment they step out of the door, I'm concerned about, their interactions potentially with other persons or the law. And so where we reside plays a part in all of that, the education system, the
Yeah.
culture, the dynamics, the crime rates. Um, so that's something I think that I'm really, really honed in on now that I've been honed in on it, but I'm actively doing whatever I need to do at this point to change our environment. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand. But like once they walk in the door, I mean, then it's your world. You get
Mhm.
to decide what that looks like. How you want to structure it. I'm writing a little bit about this about sanctuary and what it means to create a sanctuary as a single mom and like how you create sanctuary in your home with what you have, with whatever you have, and whether it's, routine or like routine to ritual, like simple routines that can turn into rituals, like special rituals or traditions, or like, you bring out the good china. So your grandma says, bring out the good china. Like maybe you can bring out the good china at certain times and like create a festive environment. So just ways to think about that. But I totally understand what you mean. And it's hard. LA is, I mean, I haven't been here that long. I've only been here for 3.5 years, but it's a tough place to thrive and especially when you have kids and you're doing it on your own. So kudos to you. And it's, I mean, yeah. So, so
No,
yeah.
I appreciate your framework and insight on that. I definitely do try to instill in my children just that routine, that connection. Like if nothing else is happening, I get it. You're older, then there's the baby. There's like a huge age gap between them as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, Sunday, movie days, like, and we're sitting at the table together and we're going to eat as a family. I do
Yeah.
think that that keeps us connected, even though like they're so different. And again, they're in different phases of their lives. But there are things like that, even if they seem like so minute, that go a long way. And they'll remember, like, 'cause I remember sitting at the family table at my mom's house and us coming together in Easter egg hunts and, going to mass, for New Year's Eve and all the things. So we have our own traditions, but we have traditions
Mm.
that I want them to continue on, like you said, legacy and that to carry on with their children in the future as well. So I
Mhm.
love
I
that you
love
shared
that. Yeah. And I love like tradition is also something like right like you can create new traditions you're the one who decides what the traditions are going to be in your house in your
that.
sanctuary, right? And I think with a lot of this we can think of just like thriving in transition. All of this is about in transition, your the way that you identify as a mom and as your kids grow older, how that changes, what the situatedness changes, where they are in life, what school they're going to, what job you have, like everything is constantly changing, and you have to navigate that ambiguity and just kind of find comfort or be okay with the changes, with like constant changes. And so that's a really important job that you have and that you're doing, and you're a wonderful mom. So that's great.
Thank you, as are you.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess do you have any ways that you like, would you like to be could anybody reach out to you? Is there any way that you might want to be reached out to, or if, or maybe just through me, someone could reach out if they had like a question for you, or thoughts on, how you are, just the great interview, something like that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to have people connect with me however they see fit. I do have a LinkedIn. I do have a Q Caballero. I do have an Instagram. However they see fit. I think that either through you two, I think if there's a opportunity to connect, I'm happy to do so. I love to learn and connect with people
Okay.
in any space. So I'm happy to
Okay.
share that with you, maybe too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds great. That sounds great. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best, and I will be seeing you soon. Okay.
sounds great. Thank you, Marie.
Okay. Thank
Have a
you.
good
Okay.
one.